Welcome back. I've just been given some news, and I'm not sure whether or not it's true, but we've just gotten a report that Moscone has been shot, and I really don't have any more information. I was just given the information just a few seconds before we... So all of you, turn on your radios. Maybe you'll find out some more news. I hope it's nothing that's serious. What a grim note to start our day with, to start our interview with. But my guest this morning is Irene Klepper, and she has written a very informational book called Growing Up with Toys, and of course this is the Christmas season, and so I'm sure many of you are already out there wondering what to get all the kids on your shopping list. And Irene, I want to welcome you to the show this morning, and as I said, I wish we didn't have that onus hanging over us. That really...
Just thinking, though, that does relate to the world of play, because children have a great many traumatic things to endure, just as we do as adults.
Right.
And they need to break those down into understandable fragments, understandable segments.
Mm-hmm.
Trauma is a passive thing. We're in the midst of something violent, and there's nothing we feel helpless.
Yeah, right. I just took my breath away, you know.
And a child needs to play through those experiences. I was during the course of writing the book, which took me 2 years and traveling all over the country, I visited Rapid City, where they just had a disastrous flood a year previous.
Mm-hmm.
And children there were still playing through the flood. They would choose up sides, who would be the victims and who would be the survivors.
My goodness,
and they needed
yeah.
to do this repetitively, to bring it into their understanding and to be doing something active about what had been a very traumatic experience.
Yeah, you know, that's the thing I think about adults, is that they really either hold in, they don't know how to deal with the disasters in their lives or the traumas in their lives, or they go berserk for a while, or some people really just almost go insane, you know. And would you say that adults could use some play therapy?
Very much so, very much so. And children, of course, don't even have the advantage that adults do. They don't have the background of previous experience. The knowledge that somehow they will live through it. But yes, as you say, adults are caught in this same passivity. We're caught in this terrible experience, whatever it is, death or disaster, and we're just more or less helpless until we start doing something active to bring it into our understanding, to deal with it actively rather than passively.
We're back, and you know, one of the hardest things in this job is to report news like this. We have just gotten news across the wire that both Mayor Moscone and Supervisor Harvey have been shot, and reports are that they have been killed. The reports are very sketchy. Both men have evidently been taken to local hospitals, and it's going to be extremely difficult to continue our interview. We're going to have to do that. Most of you, please stay tuned to your stations, your radio stations. I'm sure they will be having news about what is happening. Unfortunately, that's all we have at this point. Okay. Under duress, we shall continue. I'd like to find out from you, let's say a child was watching right now and had just heard that, you know, that their mayor and that their supervisor had been killed. Do you think that there would be anything that you would recommend for parents to do?
As we were sitting here listening to this terrible news, it recalled the Kennedy assassination. And I think for the first time, children of America were exposed to death, the irreversibility of death. We all sat glued to our television sets that entire weekend, and we all cried together.
Right.
And we felt terrible, as your city will today. And I think this is part of the parent-child interaction. Parents should not protect their children from these things, but they should help them to understand, to interpret as best they can.
You know, it doesn't seem to end, though. I mean, there's so much violence. I mean, you look at our toys. Our toys for children are really violent-centered, and there's been so many commercials that are very violent as well for these toys. I mean, I can't think of any right now, but I mean, they all have to do with...
I think we're seeing less and less violence because the Vietnam War the toys have always reflected the outside world, the real world. Erik Erikson describes the toy world as the world within a world. I think we can go with that. The Vietnam War was an unpopular war, and for the first time, I think, in our history, war toys began very suddenly to decline. We saw what war was like. We saw what the reaction to violence. It was not a glamorous thing of soldiers marching off to, to greater glory.
But what about that violence? Do you think that maybe there is hope for children to get this violence out when they're children and get it out through their toys?
Yes. Oh, very definitely, yes. We need to show children that they can demonstrate in socially acceptable ways through toys, that they can have bop bags, for instance, and to make, I think, first of all, to make them conscious that the feelings of fear and hostility and aggression are very natural feelings. We all have them. As adults, we do. And we try to find socially acceptable ways to express them. We reason out whenever we can. And when we can't, we tend to kick the refrigerator, and we tend to say this is a very bad situation and I'm just really upset. And I think the more honest we can be in our emotions, and not to try to protect the child, say, I'm a perfect person, I don't have those feelings, and you must not be afraid, you must not be violent, you must not be aggressive, but say, I know how you feel, and let's have a quick game of something or other, or let's go outside and exercise, physical. It's this passivity that we must get away from, just sitting here thinking, and turning it all inward, but to express through toys, through play, the very natural feelings that we have.
What kinds of toys would you suggest are, quote-unquote, the best?
Well, there are 14 basic toy groups, and children need to have selections from them as they go all the way through life. We need to start very early. We used to think that the first year of life was kind of a cocoon stage for children. It really isn't. The research now that I've been monitoring during my doctoral studies at the University of Minnesota shows that infants from day one are very responsive to their environment. They can see shadows about that far distant, and they're able to respond to sound.
So even from the infant stage.
We need mobiles and stuffed toys, and then we need other kinds of toys of visual and sound and exercise, things to climb on, toys to construct with, so that a child can see how to fit his world together.
Okay, Irene, I want to thank you for being here. It was a difficult day to have an interview about toys, given the fact that we've just gotten the news. We just got some further news that they were killed, evidently, and that Diane Feinstein, who's the president of the Board of Supervisors, has put an all-points bulletin out. She said that the killings took place at 11 o'clock, just as our show was starting this morning, and they have put an all-point bulletin out for City Supervisor Dan White. What that means, I don't know, but stay tuned to your radio stations and television stations. Thanks for being with us today. Thank you.